Hello everyone, Merry Christmas. I'm going to read a chapter out of Rule by Secrecy by Jim Marrs. I'm going to read about, it's just 4 pages, chapter called Morgans. Pretty much gets into J.P. Morgan. I will begin. If John D. Rockefeller had an equal in the Helicon days of the robber barons, was John Pierpont Morgan, a man even more demonstrably connected with an Anglophile network. The Morgan's banking empire continues to hold sway over both business and political decisions being made today, and many Morgan employees and agents can be counted among the membership of the secret societies. Morgan's mother was Juliet Pierpont Morgan, whose father, the Reverend John Pierpont, was vocally pro-British and the son of a Yale University founder. J.P. Morgan's father, Junius Spencer Morgan, was an American financier who traveled to England in the 1850s, where he was befriended by another expatriate American named George Peabody, a man already doing business with the British Rothschilds. Joining with Peabody under the name Peabody, Morgan and Company, Junius wealth grew as a result of obtaining loans for the North during the American Civil War. His son, John Pierpont Morgan, was born in 1837. Junius and his son took charge of the business upon the retirement of Peabody in 1864, and promptly changed the name to Morgan and Company, the Morgans, to become closely connected to the British Rothschilds, even staying in their home on occasion. Many authors have written that the Morgans eventually became a covert agent for the Rothschilds. Morgan's activities in 1895 through 1896 in selling U.S. gold bonds in Europe were based on his alliance with the House of Rothschilds, noted author Gabriel Kolko. The idea that the Morgans were the American front for Britain's Baron Nathan Mayer Rothschild's interests also was advanced by Estes Mullins, an author who in 1952 first revealed the maneuvering which resulted in the creation of the Federal Reserve System regarding the Rothschilds. Mullins wrote, even though they had a registered agent in the United States, it was extremely advantageous to them in have an American representative who is not known as a Rothschild agent. Mullins said the Rothschilds preferred to operate anonymously in the United States behind the facade of J.P. Morgan and Company. Part of the reality of the day was an ugly resurgence of anti-Semitism, wrote George Wheeler, author of Pierpont Morgan and Friends, Anatomy of a Myth. Someone was needed as a cover. Who better than John Pierpont Morgan, a solid Protestant exemplar of capitalism, able to trace his family back to pre-revolutionary times. The possibilities are obvious that a major portion of the wealth and power of the Morgan firm was and always had been merely the wealth and power of the Rothschilds, who had raised it up in the beginning and who sustained it through its entire existence, agreed author Griffin. Although J.P. Morgan was born in America and educated in Boston, in 1856 he traveled to Germany, where he studied at the University of Göttingen. Founded by England's George II in 1737, who then was serving as Elector of Hanover, notorious for his expulsion of dissident professors called the Göttingen Seven, which included the brothers Grimm and other adherents of George Hegel including Karl Marx. The university continued to be a hotbed of anti-establishment and secret society activity. Returning to the United States, Morgan joined the New York banking firm of Duncan, Sherman and Company, the American representatives of their London company. Thereafter, Morgan appears to have served as a Rothschild financial agent and went to great length to appear totally American, Griffin wrote. At the outbreak of the American Civil War, young Morgan demonstrated that the legalities and honesty played little part in his business practices. In May 1861, 24-year-old Morgan offered to sell 5,000 military rifles to the commander of the Federal Army stationed at St. Louis for $22 apiece. The commander, desperate for rifles, agreed, but when the rifles arrived, he refused payment, claiming the weapons were obsolete and defective. Morgan sued the Army and won a court judgment ordering that he paid the $109,912. The Congressional Investigating Committee in 1862 concluded that Morgan had defrauded the government. The committee found that the rifles, considered thoroughly unserviceable, obsolete, and dangerous, had been bought for $3.50 each from a New York arsenal by Simon Stevens. So he got the price down from $20 to $3.50. That's a big discount. Anyways, Simon Stevens, who was employed by Morgan's, when the St. Louis commander agreed to buy the weapons sight unseen, Morgan had used the agreement as collateral to borrow money to pay for the weapons. The U.S. Army had bought its own defective rifles from Morgan, who had no financial risk to himself, realized about 500% profit on each gun. 500% profit on each gun. I've noticed with these guys, they're always taking money, or they're always getting into like a business deal like this, getting the loan, and then being able to get what it is they're buying, like these rifles, from $20 down to $3, plus they took all that loan, plus it's crazy how they manipulate the product and the money, how they get the product for cheap and they gain a bunch of money. It's crazy stuff. Okay. In 1871, he became a partner and he made 500% profit on each gun. 500% profit. In 1871, he became a partner in one of his father's firms, Drexel, Morgan and Company, which later became simply J.P. Morgan and Company. The firm soon became the predominant source of U.S. government financing. Because of his links with the Peabody firm, Morgan had intimate and highly useful connections with the London financial world. And during the 1870s, he was thereby able to provide the rapidly growing industrial corporations of the United States with much needed capital from British bankers in order to the New York Encyclopedia of Britannica. Next to the European Rothschild family, the Morgan Company became one of the most powerful banking houses of the world. But that wasn't enough for J.P. Morgan, who inherited the family interests in 1890 following his father's death in a carriage accident on the French Riviera. 5 years earlier, he began the reorganization of America's largest railroads, and by 1902 was the world's most powerful railroad magnate, controlling about 5,000 miles of track. That's a lot of track. Morgan even helped bail out the U.S. government following a bank panic in 1893, forming a syndicate. Morgan helped the government's depleted reserves with $62 million in Rothschild gold. In the 1890s, he oversaw the merger of Edison General Electric and Thomas and Houston Electric Company to form General Electric, which quickly dominated electrical equipment manufacturing. Next, Morgan merged several steel firms to form United States Steel Corporation, and in 1902 he created International Harvester Company out of several competing agricultural equipment manufacturers. This diversified Morgan empire has never been equaled and continues to dominate the American financial industry to this day. Through a system of interlocking memberships on the boards of companies he had reorganized or influenced, Morgan and his banking house achieved a top-heavy concentration of control over some of the nation's leading corporations and financial institutions, explained the New Encyclopedia Britannica. This empire was extended to include tax-exempt foundations, trusts, pension funds, and even government positions. Such manipulation can explain how control over the commercial and economic life of the United States was achieved and maintained for those with the knowledge, willpower, and wealth. Although J.P. Morgan and John D. Rockefeller competed with each other in many areas, in the end they worked together to create a national banking cartel called the Federal Reserve System, wrote Griffin. The initial plan for the Federal Reserve System was conceived at a secret meeting in 1910 at Morgan's private resort on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. Almost done. Morgan connected to the Rockefellers through his investment associate Nelson Eldrick, remained the dominant American capitalist until his death in 1913, the same year the Fed was created. Morgan's son, John Pierpont Jr., known as Jack, continued to increase the family's fortune following his father's death, groomed to his place as head of the Morgan's empire. The younger Morgan spent 8 years working on the firm's London office, developing close ties to Britain's elite banking circles. During World War I, Morgan organized more than 2,000 banks for the underwriting of the more than $1 billion in Allied bonds. He became the only banker to purchase supplies, both military and otherwise, for both the British and French governments during the war. This indicates considerable leverage and clout within those governments, again suggesting the involvement of the Rothschilds. That's some good information. That's very good information. I'm glad I can read this stuff to you. The next chapter is Rothschilds. I'll get into that. That's like 14 pages. I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you get information out of that. You guys have a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.